Pinacoteca.
Buenos días y bienvenidos a Luis TV. Hoy Gwendolyn y yo queríamos ir a Tehotihuacan a ver las pirámides y llegamos temprano, antes de que saliera el sol, para ver el amanecer en frente de las pirámides y no pudimos. Las pirámides no abren sino hasta las 9 de la mañana. Llegamos aquí de noche y el señor Gerardo nos dejó entrar a su restaurante a esperar. El restaurante se llama Restaurante Lety.
Sí, aquí los atendemos con gusto.
Sí, it's early. We can't get to see the pyramids right now. We wanted to see the sunrise in front of it, but we couldn't. But there's hot air balloons flying right now. So I'm gonna shoot up the drone and take a look at the pyramids, I guess, from the air before we get to walk in front of them. Solamente quiero mencionar tan buena gente que es el señor Gerardo. Estamos en su restaurante. Todavía el restaurante no está abierto. Nos dejó entrar porque estábamos aquí solos. Allá afuera nos dejó el Uber. Y está pegando tanto frío que después dijo, entren a la cocina. Aquí está un poquito más caliente. Y aquí estamos en la cocina, en el restaurante de Gerardo. Todavía no está abierto, pero aquí estamos calentándonos. It's really cold. We're walking to a restaurant to go have breakfast because Tehotihuacan is not open yet. So the guy we met told us that there's a restaurant in a cave nearby here. So we're gonna go to a cave to try to get some food. The reason we're trying to make it for the sunrise is because today is the winter solstice and this pyramid is lined up with the sunrise. It's just a cool event that only happens twice a year. And we wanted to see it, but I guess we couldn't. Anyways, let's go check out this cave, get some food, and then go look at the pyramid. The place where we're going is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is an ancient Mesoamerican city. The place is thousands of years old, okay?
Yeah, one of the first civilizations in Mexico.
At its peak, Teotihuacan was the 6th largest city in the world. This city supported, what, the population was like 130,000 inhabitants? You know, that's enormous. It's a sprawling area. There's pyramids everywhere.
There are so many pyramids that people don't visit. We have la Serpent de Quetzalcaotl, la Pirámide de la Luna, la Pirámide del Sol.
And you know what? It's right in front of us. We're walking towards it right now. We got to the cave. It's a cave, but there's a restaurant in here. Look at this. ¿Qué te parece?
Impressive. Did you see that? Of like his rock? It's a cave.
This cave that we're in, this is in the ancient city of Teotihuacan. We don't know what this cave was used for. Clearly, it's been inhabited before for thousands of years. But we know what it's used for now. I mean, seriously, is there a cooler restaurant anywhere? Look at this. I can't get over this. We're in a cave. Well, this place doesn't cease to amaze. We just came out. There's another cave. There's no restaurant here. This is like literally just a cave. Gwendolyn's here somewhere. I don't know where she's at. When?
Huh?
Ah. There you are. I cannot believe I'm standing in front of this thing. Look what's behind me. That is the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. That pyramid is 65 meters tall. That's about 240 some feet. There used to be a structure on the very top of that didn't survive to modern day. When it was there, it was an extra 10 meters high, making it the third largest pyramid in the world. This thing right here. It's called the Pyramid of the Sun because that's what the Aztecs called it. But the Aztecs didn't build this. The Aztecs found it and named it that. When the Aztecs found this, the Tehotihuacan people had already abandoned this pyramid. So nobody knows what this place was called prior to the Aztecs finding it.
Maybe 12 to 14,000 people participate in the construction of this.
So you don't build the third largest structure in the world without an army of people. The structure is mostly stone on the outside, but when it was finished, it was covered in what? Plaster and
Limestone.
it was a smooth surface, and it was painted with murals depicting the deities of the time. None of that has survived, although there are depictions in murals in other places that sort of kind of hint to what it might have been decorated with. The civilization that built this was here for thousands of years. Nobody knows how long exactly. One thing that they do know for certain is that this was completed in the year 200, but nobody knows how long the civilization that built it remained. But it was likely thousands of years. The pyramid was actually abandoned in the year 750. That may not seem like a lot of time for a civilization that likely lasted thousands of years, but that's 5.5 centuries that this thing was in use by its builders. By the time the Aztecs found it, this had been abandoned for centuries already. Right behind me is the entrance to one of the passages in the pyramid. Now there's a bunch of known passages through here and likely more unknown places that haven't been discovered inside this pyramid. Even though this place wasn't open for sunrise, today is the solstice. About an hour after sunrise, the sun would have been right there over the pyramid. You have to walk through something that they call the roadway of the dead. The Teotihuacan people didn't name this the roadway of the dead. The Aztec did. Flanking this roadway were administration buildings and residences of high up people. Must have been quite a sight when it was in use, and likely just as crowded as it is today. The Pyramid of the Moon is actually the second largest pyramid in this complex. Not to be outdone by the Pyramid of the Sun, this pyramid is actually older by a whole century, and it was built to mimic the contour of the mountain to the north of it. Okay, so the Pyramid of the Moon over there was used as a sacrificial monument. They sacrificed animals and humans for several deities, the god of fertility, water, rain, that sort of thing. Before we get there, I have to make a little detour. There's that mural here. This is an original painting that still survives from that time. Incredible to see. The colors are still very vivid. I asked one of the guides that was there how much of this painting is original, and he said, as far as we know, it's all original. That's incredible because the colors are still very much vivid, but there's a caveat there. He said, as far as we know, for all we know, this could have been retouched 1,000 years ago, which would have been at least 1,000 years after it was painted, which means that if it was renovated, even the renovation is ancient. So right here on top of this structure, overlooking the Pyramid of the Moon, there's outlines of walls. Clearly there were other structures on top of this structure. Here we have a serpent head. There's significance to this, so much so that there's a whole temple in this complex dedicated to the serpent. But this isn't it. This here is a reconstruction of what the structures might have looked like while the plasters were still up. The reconstructions are done, obviously, using traditional methods, the same ones that might have been used while the Teotihuacanos were here. And now for another segment of Wendelin Does Yoga. We are at the third pyramid, right there. I'm having a really hard time pronouncing this. Wendelin, how do you say it?
Quetzalcaotl.
Yeah, it's a hard word to say. Before we go down there, I just gotta comment real quick. This is a city. It's huge. We just walked from the Pyramid of the Moon to the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent. Man, I don't know how long it was. It's long enough to like take an Uber. And of course, this is a UNESCO site. There's no Ubers here. We had to hoof it to get here, but it is big. That's the pyramid. And that's the only pyramid that's open for you to climb onto. It's also the smallest. And it's from around the same time as the Pyramid of the Moon. Let's go see this thing. The pyramid is inside a huge courtyard. The courtyard has a bunch of staircases that lead to these structures that have stairs to the top of them, and then there's nothing on top. So there used to be structures on top of each one of these, but again, We don't know what was in there. We don't know what they were used for. Before I go up to the pyramid, there is a tent right here in front of the pyramid. This is an archaeological dig. In the 80s, they discovered a sinkhole over here right in front of the pyramid. And one of the archaeologists went down there and discovered a perfectly cylindrical shaft. He got permission to dig and he went down there and they discovered a whole network of tunnels. They found several people's remains down there and they think that it's the remains of kings or important people. One of the theories is that this whole city is connected by a network of tunnels that pretty much lie as yet undiscovered. All right, let's go up this thing. How steep is this? I could go on my hands and feet. That's how steep it is. From the top of the temple of the serpent feather, it's immediately apparent why they call it that. Let me show you a close-up of its details. Look at this. Here's sculptures of feathered serpents. This whole place is just an absolute crowd pleaser. Wow. We can make a comment about how they don't make them like they used to. Look at this. These are at least 2,000-year-old steps. And look how they fit. It's just amazing stonework. We are in Torre Latinoamerica. This is a viewing deck from the top of a skyscraper in Mexico City, where there's a 360-degree view of the city. Here to just get a nice view, but it was immediately apparent how bad the air pollution problem is in Mexico City. I didn't realize exactly how bad it was, but in 1992 the UN actually declared Mexico City one of the most polluted cities in the world. A lot of factors contribute to that, and for sure the population boom that it had didn't help.